And there's Wilson. You are unmuted, Wilson. How are you doing today?
I'm great. How about you, Brent?
I'm doing great. Let me give a formal introduction as we transition from the healthcare section of our day today into the business capital portion of our day. Wilson Lester is the executive director of Piedmont Business Capital, a CDFI. He works diligently to create relationships with businesses in urban and rural community through micro lending in support of the operational expansion and new business development for women and minority entrepreneurs. Wilson is in charge of and working on a small business continuity fund, which is in great demand right now as we go through this unique time in our history. And Wilson, I just wanted to give you an opportunity. First of all, I wanted to say thank you for joining us and thank you for everything that you do for our community. But wanted to give you kind of an open, 3 to 4 to 5 minutes to talk about what's been going on in your world, what you're seeing, and kind of where you're starting to hopefully plug some of the holes that might be out there for some of our small businesses.
Right, Brent, I appreciate the opportunity and I appreciate the Chamber for hosting this call, and certainly appreciate Preston for being on and sharing that information, which I found useful and I think we all have. So just like everyone else, all industries have been impacted by the advent of COVID-19, and particularly on our economy and, in my world, the small business economy. There are so many organizations dislocated by the necessary ordinances that have been put in place to protect the health of our community, but also have a side effect. So we were particularly concerned about our businesses that were in the way of personal care, barbershops, salons, a number of different businesses like that. We have a huge industry of massage businesses in Greensboro, yoga studios, anywhere where people have to sit and stay in order to conduct commerce. That's their business model. We also have restaurants throughout our community that are locally owned that are affected in a number of different ways. Some did not have heavy takeout or delivery concepts as part of their model to drive revenue and are having to pivot in some cases to make up the restaurant revenue that would come from folks being in store. So what we found is, none of the businesses in that segment are interested in their profits right now. They're really just trying to figure out how to survive other end of the quarantine period. So we took a look at what some of our industry peers were doing, and our board set out by approving $150,000 for a small business continuity fund, which the city of Greensboro has now come alongside of and approved a resolution for an additional $400,000 to be added to what we intend on doing and are actively doing in the community. We released the application for the Small Business Continuity Fund on last Monday, March 31st. We've had over 125 applications started, over 30 businesses have completed the application, and we've already approved somewhere between $45,000 and $50,000 in loans as of this morning, and expect that the total number that we have available to be encumbered in the coming weeks, and are working with other community stakeholders to take a look at how we can create a capital campaign to add money to this loan pool. This loan pool is specifically for folks that are in the city of Greensboro. The application is very simple. We just need a copy of your articles of incorporation, or if you're a sole proprietorship, your executive summary, at least 2 months of personal and business bank statements, a copy of your lease or mortgage documentation for where you operate your business out of, a list of your monthly expenses with verified documentation, and your year-to-date payroll summary. If you do not have your year-to-date payroll summary, if you're a sole proprietorship, if you can demonstrate your distributions to yourself via your bank statement, we can work with you on that. Right now, we're working very hard to be able to approve these loans in a 72-hour period, given we have receipt of all documentation, and that's approve and fund. It's extremely critical right now here at the beginning of the month. The businesses that have had their income stymied over the course of March have access to that capital to keep current with their landlords and their monthly payments, as well as also help support keeping their employees in place. We are following the guidance of a number of things that SBA is doing as they take a look at how they fund some of the programs that are out in the marketplace right now. And we're just very happy that we have such strong partners in the city of Greensboro and others to help us coordinate this effort right now.
Wilson, talk to us about where people can find this application. Is it an easy website link? How do we get that application out to folks who are interested on this call?
Great, thank you. So as soon as you go to our website, PiedmontBusinessCapital.org, the COVID-19 tab is the first thing that's there. You can go through that. It shows you the list of documentation that you're going to need ready to be able to provide. And you go through about a 14-question application. And the last 5 questions on that application are all questions that will require you to upload documentation. And we even put a quick link in the application to a YouTube video. If you're unfamiliar with creating a PDF form or for that matter, you can watch that video. It's about 4 minutes to show you how to create the document. And each one of those questions, you just upload your documentation to it. Once you submit your application, in less than 24 hours, you'll get a contact from an entrepreneur coach with our organization that will let you know whether or not we have all the correct documentation, and if we need some additional documents, they will work with you to get those input into your application, and then it is forwarded on to be approved or declined. The way that we're working that is we're looking at about 4 weeks of operating expenses and then doing a multiple of 1.5 so that we can provide 6 weeks of operating expenses that include payroll so that you can maintain the continuity of your business during this downtime and get past what we know as the defined quarantine period for the state of North Carolina to be April 29th.
Wilson, is there a maximum for that when you put those
right.
6 weeks in?
Right. So the cap on the loan is $10,000, and the payments are deferred for 90 days. And again, this is a zero interest loan.
And what's the zero interest loan? What's the term? What's the length of a payback typically with the fund?
The terms are going to be 48 to 60 months.
Okay. Couple of good questions here. Does the program cover not-for-profit businesses as well, or is this just for-profits?
Yes, it covers non-for-profit businesses also.
Very good.
And I can give you a quick list of the businesses which are in the FAQs, but it includes nonprofits, veterans organizations, sole proprietorships, self-employed individuals, and independent contractors. So all businesses fall under this group.
Very interesting question on chat here. You're probably seeing it as well. Can this be used to start a business for people who have been laid off?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. Okay.
This is
businesses that have been established. So you've got to be looking backwards at some past performance.
Right. The only way that we can verify true costs is through past performance. We wish that we could help in that way, but there are some other resources that we can help you identify in the community that are available to provide finance for folks that have experienced some displacement due to loss of employment to be able to start a business, and we'd be happy to walk you through that. But this particular program is for businesses that are indeed in operation and have been, because we're looking back to your activity prior to February 15th.
Good question here. So are there any restrictions on how your funds can be used? So when you do get approved and the funds are distributed, are you watching? Is there a report due back? What are the restrictions on how those funds might be used?
Yes. So the funds have to be used for salary or wages. They have to be used for rent or mortgage payment of your facility. They have to be used for identifiable utilities and other expenses associated with the cost of operating your business. So that's the information that we're asking on the front end to verify and then define the amount of your loan. And those will be the exact activities that those dollars should be attributed to. And we will do a 45-day check-in.
Gotcha. Really good question here in terms of stackability. So can we apply for this loan and still apply and be approved for the Paycheck Protection Plan or the EIDL loans? Are you anticipating being kind of a bridge between this time and the time that they might get to a PPP or an EIDL award?
Yes. So that is a great question, and I appreciate that. You absolutely can stack this with the PPP or EIDL opportunities, and we would take a subordinate position to SBA.
And I know you have a number of other businesses that are already have already taken on some debt from Piedmont Business Capital. Are you allowing them to take on additional loans with this particular program as well?
It's on a case-by-case basis right now, Brent. What we have done is we deferred all the loans in our portfolio for 90 days to give some breathing room. And we are beginning to talk to some businesses that are in our portfolio that may have been paying on a term note for a while and now have some room in between the principal amount and what their original loan amount was to convert that difference into something like a line of credit. If it makes more sense to provide the Small Business Continuity Fund during this time than to do that for those individual businesses, we will go that route. But yeah, we are working and keeping a close bead on everyone that's in our portfolio to make sure that they have the support and the information about the different resources that are available in the community right now so that they can make the best decision possible.
And that's exactly why I asked that question, Wilson, is because you're acting exactly the way we want all of our lenders to act, right? It's, we want to work with you. We want to keep you up and running in this process. And if that means deferring something, changing something, working with you to make sure that you're going to continue to remain on your own two legs through this process, and we get to the end and we can talk about how to make up for it later down the road, right?
Yes. So when you go to that page, when you hit our main page, you'll see a little button underneath a couple of paragraphs that talks about the Small Business Continuity Fund that says "Start My Application." That is the application. When you click that button, you'll be taken through a series of questions, and then eventually get to the questions where you will need to upload documentation. So that list of items that you'll need, your articles of incorporation or executive summary, your bank statements, those things you'll need to have handy, because once you click that button, you'll be taken into the application to begin to answer questions and upload documentation to be submitted to us.
So Wilson, you said at the beginning that you've got 125 applications started, 30 have been completed. Are they starting to bog down when they need to provide you documentation? Is that what you think is kind of the hurdle for folks at this point?
I most certainly think that that's the hurdle for folks at this point. And also, I think it's the question of what resource do I take? There are a number of resources being made available